That Tuesday evening, I was a mess. By 9 o'clock, I couldn't talk to anybody. I shut down. I went to bed. And then that Wednesday, November 9th, I couldn't stop crying. I felt scared. I felt cut off. I felt betrayed. I couldn't. And then, miraculously, here in this space, coming into Fellowship Hall, hundreds of you came. You came. We offered each other hugs or tears. Hundreds came and we broke bread together. We came in here and we lit candles and wept together. And then 100 more came in hijabs and yarmulkes to talk about facing hate in the world. And a miracle happened that evening, that November 9th, here. I no longer felt a mess. I was still dismayed. I was still not happy. But the presence that you brought, being with you, reminded me I was not cut off from the world. I was not alone. I was alive, and you were alive, and we were together. And it was like a miracle. I came back to life. We don't know about this presence thing. It's complicated because it's hard to put your finger on it. You feel it sometimes when you look at somebody in the eye and you get it, or when you reach out and touch them, or you lock arms with them at a protest, or you lock eyes across a room. There's something there. Or maybe you feel it without other people at all. Maybe you feel it after you climb a mountain and you come out to a view and see the splendor of nature. Or maybe you feel it when you light a candle or when you hear a song. What is it that we're feeling? This very real but very hard to name, this very powerful thing of presence. Unitarian Universalism talks about the sources that we draw from, and the sources include the teachings of religious traditions, the scriptures, men and women of science and reason. But you know what the very first source is that we name as what inspires us? It's called that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces that create and uphold life. That sense, that mystery, that wonder, it is our first source before all others. Presence. I am alive, and so are you, and I am not alone in this world. I'm disconnected, no longer. And this is what our wounded souls need in troubled times. Deep listening, connecting presence, nothing that's going to fix us, not a hero, not rescuing. What we really need for our souls is that sense that we're not alone, that there is a presence with us and in us. This Advent of 2016, we need presence more than ever. And we are waiting in Advent in a time of great crisis, a time when there really is no easy fix, and the future looms very uncertain, even dangerous. The people of Standing Rock waiting for what is coming at them. The immigrant and the Muslim waiting for what might happen after the inauguration, what that might mean to their lives. All of us waiting, wondering if our nation which needs to be building relationships and intercultural understanding, wondering if our nation is in fact headed for a new era, a dark time of xenophobia, a loss of civility, and worse. How can we be present to one another during this difficult and scary time of waiting? Well, some of us organize, some of us sing together, some of us study scriptures and have conversations, seeking to find ways to see our light. This afternoon at 5 p.m., I'm going to be joining the rabbi of Kol Ami, our resident Jewish congregation. She has been inspired by and wants to talk with us, and you're invited to come. It's at 5 o'clock. Not in God's Name, a book by a Rabbi, Jonathan Sachs. He presents a radical rereading of the Hebrew Bible and the all-important stories of sibling rivalry in Genesis. And I'm really intrigued by one thing that I spotted in his book. He explains that a lot of people see the Cain and Abel story as a metaphor for what has happened in our human history. You know, two brothers who are jealous of each other and fight, and Cain ends up killing Abel. And a lot of people have thought that Abel, which can be translated meaning shepherd, represents the earth-loving, pastoral nature of humankind, and Cain, which can be translated as metalsmith, represents the use of technology that separates us from the earth and is more aggressive. But he says actually there's a deeper way of looking at this story. A translation for Abel is breath, and another translation for Cain is ownership, possession. So he suggests that the story is telling us what we are struggling with as human beings, and what actually kills our connection to God is when we forget that we are beings of the breath. The Spirit, the presence of creation, or God. And when we see ourselves as beings that own or possess or control or guard things from one another, we are cut off from that sense of life. When we share in the breath of God, we are interconnected with everything that breathes, everything that's alive, that's been created. We are inspired, and we dwell in the presence of life. But when we see ourselves as the manipulators, the world becomes not life, but things, to be controlled, to be moved around and manipulated, and that includes people. We need to remember that life comes from breath, sharing breath, feeling it, inspiring and being present to it. That's what matters, and that's what's life-giving. It's soul-deadening to just search for meaning in being rich or important or possessing or clinging to stuff. That is soul-deadening and, in fact, is killing our world. But being alive is breathing through the hard times, being present to what is unfolding, rejoicing. The song says, rejoice. Because we, even in troubled times, we can breathe together because we are alive, waiting, present to the darkness and the pain, and waiting to see that little light that's coming again. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. So I've been thinking about the musical Hamilton. There was a lot of hoopla when they first opened, and Michelle Obama invited the cast to the White House, and then they won all those Tonys. And then just a couple of weeks ago, when Vice President-elect Pence visited the show, the cast was authentically present to him and created a statement where they said, "We, sir, are the diverse America who are alarmed, and we, truly hope that this show will inspire you to uphold American values and to work on behalf of all of us. And that was a powerful statement that proved to me that they were very alive and present, and reinforced what I'd been thinking about Hamilton before in this troubled time, a song line that's been going over and over in my head. You know, there's this place where Eliza, the wife, is worried about her husband Alexander, and she needs to tell him she's going to have a baby, but he's also going back to fight in the Revolutionary War, facing death. But she sings, look around at how lucky we are to be alive right now. Look around. Look where you are. Look where you started. The fact that you're alive is a miracle. It's a miracle. And so that night, Wednesday night, November 9th, and I saw you all, my tears turned from being in despair and disconnected to being so grateful for your presence. We came together and I saw that we had so much to be grateful for. Yes, we were mourning, and yes, we pray, and yes, we protest, and yes, we give thanks. Because we are together, we are reviving ourselves and each other, and we can rejoice when we feel that presence. And that's when we become a community of presence, not just individual people present to one another, but a community that's present to the world. There's an article in this week's Electronic Connections, which all of you can get to by going to our webpage and clicking on Connections. And the chairman of our board, Warren Wright, wrote a great article. And I want you to read the whole thing. I want you to go to the part that says read more and click that, and you'll get the whole thing, because every word is worth it. But this is what I want to read right now that I think is so to the point about what I'm talking about with connections and being present. He says, the one thing I'm absolutely certain of is that the mission of UUCA has never been more clear and more urgent. Now is our time. We were built for this moment, and all the pettiness has just fallen to the wayside. And we are called to play a central role to bridge the tragic gap in order to uphold the principles of American democracy and human decency. Sounds dramatic? Well, it is. We are in dramatic times. You know, UUCA has been a presence as a community in Arlington for decades. During the Jim Crow years, we desegregated the schools. We created Culpeper to provide affordable housing for seniors. We offered sanctuary in the 1980s to El Salvadoran refugees. We were a welcoming congregation to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people way before the rest of the country caught on. And we were an organizing congregation to bring together the interfaith collaboration voice to help build power for poor and immigrant and marginalized people. And we are one of the founding partners of the DREAM Project here in Northern Virginia. So we have decades of this, and this Thursday evening, December 8th, UUCA is receiving an award for human rights from the Arlington County government in recognition of our presence in this community for all these decades. And I do hope some of you will be there with us when we receive this award, because we won it because of you building a community that is a present community, present to this world in times of wanting, in times of struggle, all the hard times. We have been together as a community. And now, as Warren has said, is more than ever a time for us to remember that we have an obligation, a witness, to be a community of presence. So let us resist, let us rejoice, and let us realize the power in our presence, which is continual and faithful and committed. Let us be a sanctuary for those who are at risk. Let us build coalitions with partners. Let us welcome 1 million life lovers January 20th and 21st who are going to travel from far away to be a presence of resistance and love. Here we are in the season of Advent. Emmanuel, God with us. In the midst of winter, a baby comes. And look around. Look around how lucky we are. In the midst of war in the Middle East, protest in North Dakota, a U.S. election which brings challenges and fears to us all, look around and see that we are here and we can bring power to this season. I am seeing in my mind's eye a beautiful image that's going to help me get through all this. 10 of our own UUCA singers traveled 2 weeks ago to the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and joined with hundreds of Jewish and Muslim and Christian and Unitarian Universalist singers to stand on the steps as the sun was going down and lighting the world with gold before the darkness. And they started singing their songs of hope together, bringing songs of hope with interfaith siblings to say this world can be beautiful when we are present to one another. Let that be a vision for each of us. Light is to darkness what love is to fear. So let us bring light into this darkness. Let us bring love into this world. Emmanuel, God with us, God in us, hope together. In the love, in the light that we show one another. Let us be present with one another to sing, to pray, to comfort, to dance, to create beauty and harmony. I look at your faces, and I gotta tell you, I'm not a particularly happy person, but I am not a mess anymore. And it's because of you. You have made the difference, your presence as individuals and as a community. And I want to thank you for saving my life. Let us breathe together.